Welcome to all in your own channel NCERT e-teaching. Today, students of class 12th biology, I am here with my third video of chapter number 3, which is human reproduction. In my previous two videos, we have discussed about human female reproductive system and human male reproductive system. In this video, we will conclude all the information what we have learned, and we will make a path to learn uh, chapter number 4 of the same unit, which is reproductive health. So if we have understood the structure of male and female reproductive system, then it will be easier for us to understand this chapter. Plus, if we will understand this chapter also, then it will be easier for us to understand the next chapter, reproductive health. So let's start our video. First, you can see here some stages of human embryo development. So we will discuss after some slides about these stages. I'm sure many of you have identified some stages, that this is the final stage, and this is very initial stage of only 4 cells are visible to us. So let's start our presentation. Again, what are the learning outcomes? So for this section, video number 3, our learning outcomes are to learn about fertilization and implantation, pregnancy and embryo development, and parturition and lactation. What do you mean by parturition? It is the childbirth, and lactation, the feeding of the child. I will not discuss all the topics as it is from NCERT. I will discuss other topics also, so that our understanding can improve. Otherwise, you can always read this chapter from NCERT, as I have mentioned several times, that we must stick to NCERT, or pursue or follow NCERT when it comes to diagrams and tables and data and examples. So previous knowledge, again same previous knowledge we need to understand this video lecture also, which I have discussed in my previous videos also. If you want to check out those videos, I will provide a link for those videos in the description. So again, cell division and cell cycle, very important, meiosis, mitosis. Then chemical control and coordination from class 11th biology, and neural control and coordination from class 11th biology, to understand the implication of hormones plus our brain. Most importantly, the hypothalamus of the brain, and of course the pituitary. Then again, same information, reproduction takes place in 3 steps: gametogenesis, mating, and fertilization. So today we will discuss about fertilization. So what is fertilization? I know that we all are aware about fertilization from class 8th science to class 10th science. Now we are in class 12th biology. Very simple, we can say, fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. What do you mean by male gamete? The sperm. What do you mean by female gamete? The egg. Both are haploid cells. When they fuse, they will make a diploid cell, which is zygote. This is the essence of fertilization. This is the most important event in sexual reproduction. So when we discussed about a female reproductive system and male reproductive system, actually we have discussed about the production of egg and sperms, which are female and male gametes. So all structures, all organs are only for production, successful production of egg and sperms, plus successful fusion, and they provide the conditions suitable for this fusion. Next thing, so first slide in our presentation, again the comparison between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. This also I have discussed in my previous videos of female reproductive system. We have discussed in this in detail. This is only for recall value, that the process of spermatogenesis happens in testicles, and process of oogenesis happens in ovary. Spermatogonia, oogonia, primary spermatocytes, primary oocyte, then meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, then we have secondary spermatocytes, secondary oocyte after meiosis 1, spermatids, ootids in after meiosis II, then oocyte will transform into ovum, and spermatid transforms into spermatozoa. Very brief introduction. If you want detailed discussion, then you can check out my previous videos also. Next slide. Okay, again for recall value, when we discussed that okay, in male reproductive system, which we have discussed in my previous video, testicles are the primary sex organs or essential sex organs. Why? Because they are the site of sperm production, and in this testicle you can see many chambers, and each chamber having a very lengthy coiled tube. This tube is called seminiferous tubule. Seminiferous tubule, you can remember the name also, because the liquid in which sperms uh, get nutrition, get maturation, and they move in that liquid, that is called semen, and the name is seminiferous tubule. This is how we can remember. So the seminiferous tubule is a tube-like structure in which sperm production takes place. And if we see the TS of testicle, although I have discussed this thing in my previous videos, this is also important for your practical syllabus also, for sporting point of view. So here you can see one seminiferous tubule in transverse section. So you can see so many cells are there. So if you are aware about spermatogenesis, then you can know that okay, these are sperm mother cells, spermatogonia, primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, spermatid, then finally these are the sperms, head and tails. So I am not going to discuss the structure of sperm. You can refer your NCRT also for that generalized structure of sperm, very simple to understand. If you want, then I will make video for this structure also, because this structure I have skipped in male reproductive system, very easy to understand. So this is what I wanted to recall. Then one more thing, we have certain cells in testicle, they are called Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells provide nutrition to sperms. And another type of cell which is called Leydig cells, they are there in between the spaces of seminiferous tubules in the testicle, and they secrete testosterone, which is male sex hormone, this thing here mentioned. Okay, so these 2 points are very important for examination point of view. I have discussed this thing in my previous videos. So again, this is again enlarged part or image of only this part. Here you can see again this big cell is a Sertoli cell, and now you can see spermatogonium, primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, then spermatids, and then sperms. You can see the structure. So by this diagram, you if you want to take a screenshot, you can take, then you can refer to male reproductive system in my previous video. So this is only for recall value. Next thing, okay. And then when we talked about when we discussed about female reproductive system, I will show you here. This is the diagram of female reproductive system. I have discussed this in detail in my first video of this chapter. Every detail I have discussed. So as I have discussed, I am recalling again. Egg are being produced in ovary, then they release in the abdominal cavity, collected by fimbriae, which are finger-like projection of oviduct or fallopian tube, and then egg goes into fallopian tube, and when it fertilized, then slowly it scroll down, and it starts cell division. The zygote becomes embryo, and then embryo get attached to the internal wall of the uterus, which is called endometrium. This thing we have discussed. Again, the recall value. So here the site of fertilization is what? The fallopian tube or the oviduct. This thing we have learned from class 8th to 10th. Now we are in class 12th. So let's discuss about that process of fertilization. Okay. So here, from our NCRT, you will see this diagram. So here you can see the ovum or the egg here, and you can see sperms. Okay, one more thing I want to discuss here. Only one sperm will fertilize one egg or ovum, and that will result in the formation of zygote, but many sperms are required surrounding the egg during this process to maintain a biochemical environment. And that is why if you have heard the sperm count, so in semen a certain level of sperms are necessary for successful reproduction, because sperm count, although we know that we need only one sperm to fertilize one egg, but yes, many sperms makes some biochemical environment suitable for fertilization. Okay, very simple information. Now, this big diagram shows again this diagram in detail from NCERT. So, although this is not from NCERT, but it will help you to understand the process. Okay, although this process is not covered in our text in detail, that much of detail, but yes, what detail is covered, if you take a screenshot of this diagram also, it will help you to understand the text written in your NCERT. You can see easily that the, okay, let's discuss structure of sperm also, because that topic is skipped by me in male reproductive system. So very briefly I discuss. This is the head of the sperm, this is the middle piece of the sperm, and this is the tail of the sperm. And we know sperm is a modification of a cell. Which cell? The cell which is the result of spermatogenesis. And we know that the result of the spermatogenesis is some cells which are called spermatids. You can see here spermatids which are haploid. We know that the result of the meiosis is always haploid, 4 cells. Very easy. I have discussed this thing in male reproductive system. Again, if we see the structure of sperm, so the sperm is a modification of spermatid. What modification? So what you know about the cell? All cell organelles now do not require for sperm. We only require the nucleus of the sperm for successful fertilization, because the nucleus which is haploid of the sperm and the nucleus of the egg will fuse with each other and they will make a diploid single nucleus of zygote. Okay, so this head is composed of nucleus. Then one more thing which is called one structure is there which is called acrosome. Okay, acrosome, which have digestive enzymes. If you have learnt about the cells in class 8th, in class 9th, and in class 11th also, that cells have certain cell organelles which are called lysosomes. So lysosomes have some degradative enzymes. They help us to degrade things inside the cell, microscopic things. So again, acrosome is nothing but modification of lysosome. So here you can see it is degrading what? It is degrading the wall of the egg or the layer of the egg, so that sperm can enter into the egg. And now you can see the difference in size also, girls and boys. Egg is very large if you compare with sperm, because egg need cytoplasm, but sperm is only the requirement from sperm is only to donate the nucleus. Then why there is a middle piece? This middle piece is composed of several mitochondria, again from spermatid. This is how sperm have been transformed from spermatid. That nucleus come here, lysosomes come here, mitochondria arrange here, then because of centrosome or centriole, it made a tail. So why mitochondria? For the movement of sperm, very simple. So the middle piece is having mitochondria to provide energy for the movement of sperm, and this tail will help in the movement of sperm. So this is the simple structure of sperm. There is a very good diagram in our NCERT. I forgot to include the diagram in my previous video, which was for the male reproductive system. So here I have discussed this structure of sperm in detail. Now you can see the process of fertilization, very easy, and you can see clearly that only head is donated from the sperm. Okay, which is called sperm pronucleus, and then nucleus will both nuclei from egg and sperm will fuse. And also after fertilization, if you are able to see, this egg will make a protective layer. You can see here big protective layer after fertilization, not before fertilization. It will make a big protective layer, so that it will uh, stop the entry of extra sperms. So when one sperm will fertilize this egg, when nucleus fusion is there, then the egg will become impermeable to rest of the sperms. Okay, to block polyspermy, very simple. Okay, very simple. You can read this topic as it is from NCERT. This diagram will help you to understand. Next thing, after fertilization. Okay, see, after fertilization, zygote will divide and divide and divide, and it will make many cells. Okay, let's see this diagram first, then I will come back to the diagram. Okay, here you can see diagram taken as it is from NCERT here. So you can see one zygote is there with some layers of cells. Sorry, it is not zygote, sorry, it is egg follicle. You can see with big egg. Now you can see process of fertilization. then zygote will divide into 2 cells here, 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells, then it will become 32, 64, 128, okay, so on. So here you can see, we by cell division we will get only one mass of cells. That will not solve our purpose. That cannot transform into a human embryo, because we all know, if we are talking about human embryo, cockroach embryo, dog embryo, or any other embryo, we know that any type of creature, whether it is embryo or fetus or child or anything, it is made up of several types of cells. Easily you can understand, anybody can understand that we are having skin cells, blood cells, nerve cells, muscle cells, many type of internal organs. They have different type of cells. Now one question arises, okay, if because of successive cell division we are having same type of cells, how this cluster of cells can become a child with so many types of cells, tissues, organs and organ systems? So it is a big question you will encounter in higher classes, but here I am giving you a clue. Because of some polarity, if you have heard the polar bodies, so because of some polarity, this egg divides non-symmetrically, okay, and then slowly, gradually, the fate of this embryo decides. Okay, what do we mean by fate? See, for example, if you say, okay, these are 16 cells, what if I remove 2 cells from this embryo? What will happen to the child? So then your question will be, okay sir, then you tell us that what those 2 cells are going to make in the human embryo or fetus. If I say, okay, those 2 cells were required for making brain, then your answer will be, okay sir, then this embryo will not have any brain. If I say, okay, from these 16 cells 2 cells will were required for making hands, one hand, then you will say, sir, simple answer that this embryo will not have any hand if you remove these 2 cells. Correct? Very easy to understand. Although I am giving very oversimplified answer, okay, this is very deep answer. We need to read lot for this. So I am trying to make things oversimplified. But if we are talking about these 2 cells, 4 cells or 8 cells, do you know, kids or students, if you remove any cell there will be no effect on the embryo. Why? Because every cell is capable of making complete human embryo. Are you getting my point? See, if you said, okay sir, here are 8 cells, and if I say, okay, if here are 8 cells now, that if you remove 4 cells there will be no problem, because remaining 4 cells will divide and divide and divide, they will make many cells and they will make a complete embryo. If you say, okay sir, we will remove 7 cells, what will happen if there is only one cell? Again my answer will be the same. The cell will divide and divide and divide and it will make a complete human embryo. Then you will ask, okay sir, then what is the problem in 16 cells, 32 cells or 64 cells or 128 cells? Why at that stage if you remove some cells they cannot make another complete human being? Because of differentiation. A word is there, differentiation. I am sure that you have heard this word in plant growth and development, chapter number 15 in class 11th biology, and very common term, differentiation, because these cells become determined, these cells become differentiated. So at that stage of 1 cell, 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, there is no difference in these cells. No any cell knows that what that cell is going to make. That is why there is no harm. So if we remove these 8 cells, if we separate these 8 cells in laboratory, and if we implant those 8 cells in 8 ladies or 8 females in their uterus, you will be surprised to know there will be 8 babies same to same, for example twins, like twins. And if you separate those 8 cells and you implant, okay, I am talking theoretically for understanding only, not practically. If you implant those 8 cells in 8 ladies or 8 uterus, then again they will divide and divide and divide and they will make more cells. Again you in 8 cells you will separate and separate, and again if you are going to implant, so you can make several embryos or several humans looking alike. Those humans will be called as clone, or you can say twins. Okay, so this capacity of the cells is called totipotency, or you can say, okay, these cells are called as embryonic stem cells. I am sure that you have heard this word before, embryonic stem cells. You know that we are having stem cells in our bone marrow also, because those cells can make any type of blood cell, red blood cell, white blood cells. In white blood cell there are so many type of cells, leukocytes, lymphocytes, okay, there are so many types, but they are limited only making blood cells. So they are not complete stem cells, they are only multipotent or pluripotent stem cells, okay. So we are not going to discuss this topic in deep, because this is not the topic for class 12 biology, but I am giving you an idea. So what I am saying, that when when the embryo have many cells, then the fate of cells is determined. That is why I am taking this example. If you remove some cells, those cells, the embryo will miss the thing which those cells are going to make, okay. This is what we call differentiation. So we have many names of these stages also, okay. Morula, gastrula, blastula, these are some names in animals, but one name is very important, I will say, which is called blastocyst in humans. Blastocyst, why it is important? See, when embryo or the zygote divide and it makes embryo, see, okay, it divides, you see here, okay, the embryo is dividing 2 cell stage, 4 cell stage, 8 cell stage, then it have become morula, then blastocyst, okay. I am talking about this blastocyst. So in this stage the embryo is going to implant, okay. These are some enlarged images of these embryos. So egg is being formed in ovary, released in abdominal cavity, collected by fimbriae in oviduct. There was fertilization, then zygote formation, cell division, and scrolling down towards uterus. So when embryo reaches towards uterus, here it becomes the blastocyst. So it is very important question for board examination also, that at which stage human embryo attached to the internal lining of the uterus, which is called endometrium. This is what we call blastocyst, okay. That is why it is important. So here are some stages of human embryo from NCERT and from other book, so that we can enhance our understanding. And this process of attaching the stage of human embryo, which is called blastocyst, to the internal wall of the uterus, which is called endometrium, this process is called implantation, okay. And in my previous video of human female reproductive system, I have discussed about the internal layer of uterus, which is called endometrium. And okay, one more thing we can discuss here. So now, okay, let's talk about this diagram. So this is a simple diagram, you can take a screenshot, and very simply you can understand how many days after fertilization, and here the implantation of blastocyst. Here is structure of blastocyst which is important, okay. So this, see, human embryo, chick embryo, or any other embryo, when zygote forms and it undergoes into cell divisions and it make many cells, all cells will not make a human embryo, okay. Some of the cells will make human embryo, rest of the cells will make some extra embryonic layers, okay. There are some names of these layers in many animals, for example, amnion, chorion, allantois, yolk sac, okay. There are several names, okay. So I will talk about only one name, which is called chorion, or the outermost layer. So when I say, okay, human embryo is going to attach in with the internal lining of the uterus, which is called endometrium, so we can specify na the outer layer of embryo also, which is called chorion. So these there will be some finger like projections, okay. I will show you. There will be some finger like projections at the point of attachment of uterus and embryo. These are called chorionic villi. Now you can see the name chorio, and we will discuss one technology which is called amniocentesis, because amnion is also a layer. So amnion layer, which is an extra embryonic layer, have some fluid which is called amniotic fluid. If we extract that fluid for some research agent, that process is called amniocentesis, okay. So there are extra layers also, that those layers are required, you know, when embryo is there, or when fetus is there inside the human body, inside the mother. So during 9 months of pregnancy, to prevent any injury or big injury, there are many layers which are protecting the baby, and there are some liquids filled on this layer, those enhance the defense, okay. So amnion, chorion, these are some layers, names of layers, and you will see many other names related to those names. Okay, and amniotic fluid means the fluid filled inside, or we can say in between the human embryo and the external layer, which is called amniotic fluid. Okay, we will discuss these things later. So this thing you can see, a trophoblast, blastocele. Cele means cavity, blastocele means the cavity in the blastocyst, and blastomere, if you heard this, hear this term, blastomere means cells of the human embryo in early condition. Okay, these are some layers. Inner mass, inner cell mass. Okay, so I say this is the stage which implants in the uterus, and this stage have several layers. For example, inner cell mass or trophoblast. So very simply we can say that, okay, inner cell mass will make human embryo, and trophoblast will make placenta, if you have this heard this term before in class 10th. Okay, let's discuss that thing. So this diagram is also important. Why it is, although it is not taken from NCERT, but if you will read the NCERT text, you will encounter these terms, and this diagram will help you to understand those terms better. You can again take a screenshot whenever you want. Okay, again one more stage. Okay, it is I think that it is not taken from human embryo, but it will enhance our understanding. So when it is, I think it is a blastula of any animal, of I think it is frogs blastula. Okay, so blastula of frog or blastocyst of human, same thing. There is blastocele, there will be one liquid. It is what is written here, animal pole and a vegetal pole. I was saying that this developing embryo have some poles or some polarity. Because of that, cells decides what to make, what not to make. Okay, uh, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. I'm sure that you have heard about these terms in class 11th diversity, when we were talking about animal classification. So we have used these terms, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. If you remember coelom, the internal cavity which is lined by mesoderm. So the animals which have only ectoderm and endoderm, they are called diploblastic, and the animals which have ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm, they are called triploblastic. So we humans are triploblastic, frogs are triploblastic. So this diagram will also enhance your understanding when you will read the text in the NCERT. So I hope that I made some sense, and I made your understanding better about the fertilization and implantation. This diagram is also understood by us. Next thing, okay, so like I said that, okay, the stage which is going to implant inside the uterus with the internal lining of force, which is called endometrium, and what we call the outer lining of blast is trophoblast, and this blue color cluster of cells is called inner cell mass, which will make human embryo. This is also a question for board examination, and sometimes they ask for the structure of blastocyst, and sometimes they ask the name only, sometimes they ask what inner cell mass will make, and sometimes in board examination they will ask what part of blastocyst will make the human embryo. So it is very important for board examination point of view also, and for NEET also. So after implantation, the embryo will develop, and as I have discussed in human female reproductive system about the menstruation cycle and ovarian cycle, that for this stage uterus is already prepared by increasing the blood supply. And if egg is fertilized, which is not a normal condition, but if egg is fertilized and implanted, then in the ovary, again I will show you, in the ovary this corpus luteum will not degrade, but it will proliferate, and it will make more progesterone, which will help in sustaining the pregnancy. If you want to recall this discussion, you can refer to my previous video about the human female reproductive system and the hormonal control. Okay, now again a diagram as it is taken from NCERT. So here you can see the uterus, you can see plug of mucus, because we know that, okay, pregnancy is there, so we need to protect the embryo. Then you see embryo yolk sac, again what I've said, chorion, amnion, allantois, yolk sac, these are some names of extra embryonic layers. Okay, this is the developing embryo cavity of uterus. Okay, and umbilical cord, you know, if you are aware about navel, what do you mean by navel? We humans have navel in our stomach, a spot. because from this spot we have one umbilical cord in embryonic condition, and from this umbilical cord we are attached with a structure which is called placenta. Placenta is a structure, disc shaped structure, which is made up of some part of uterus and some part of embryo, of course, as I've said previously, when blastocyst was implanting. So the outermost layer was trophoblast, which was attaching with the endometrium, which is the internal lining of uterus. So here you can see enlarged image of placenta. So in placenta you will see some finger like projections. These are also called chorionic villi. You can see why chorionic villi, as I have said, outermost layer is called chorion. Okay, why amniotic fluid, you will ask, because some layers are called amnion. Okay, by very simply by applying some logic you will understand the terms. Okay, so this is the enlarged structure of placenta. You can see the blood vessels, vascularization here, and finger like projection. So what is the function of placenta? Very crucial, important, very simple. When embryo is developing, we know that embryo is not having lungs, heart, kidneys, digestive system, and it is not feeding as well. So embryo needs many things: nutrition, gases for breathing, it needs some removal of some excreted material, and it also needs some antibodies for defense. So placenta, by providing blood supply, not directly but by some layers, it will provide nutrition and oxygen, antibodies to the embryo, and it will collect excreted material from the embryo. So the role of placenta is very simple to understand. You can take the help of your NCERT textbook. Again, let's discuss some role of hormones. Okay, I will before discussing hormones, I will show you one again, this image of developed embryo in the uterus. You can see, and you can see here, it is a urinary bladder. This is the uterus, how enlarged it have become. And if you have heard that in during a pregnancy, mothers feel urge for urination more frequently, because you can see there is a pressure on urinary bladder. So many things you can understand by seeing these visuals and by referring your text from your NCERT. So here the same type of images I have taken from different books, so that they can enhance your understanding. So it is 2 months embryo. Here you can see the amnion layer, and here you will see amniotic fluid. And if you want to analyze human embryo for any reason, sometimes we take this fluid from syringe, and then we can analyze this liquid. But nowadays in developing countries, for example India, people are using this fluid for extracting the embryonic cells, and to know about the sex of the embryo, whether it is female or male. And now we know that the condition of ladies in Indian society, we all know, I think. So this can be a result for feticides. People, in some rural areas, some backward areas, people do not want female child. So if they know that okay, lady is pregnant and she is having a female child, there are chances to by deliberately killing that embryo. So it is banned in India, by the way. So it is also a information. Again, structure of placenta in 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional ways. I have shown you 3-dimensional image. Now you can see the 2-dimensional image will be helpful for us for examination point of view. Okay, when you see, there will be less images in your NCERT, but if when you, there is extensive text there, but when you read the text and if you have no reference point, then it will be very difficult for us to digest that text. So these visuals will help you to understand the text better. Very simple to understand. Okay, these are some chorionic villi. Villi means plural, vilus means singular, we can understand, which have blood supply. And you can see blood of embryo and blood of mother, baby and mother, they do not mix with each other. If you remember the closed circulatory system, which we have discussed in class 11th biology also, that the in our system blood always flows in blood vessels, it doesn't come out. Gas exchange, nutrient exchange, or any other thing exchange happens with the help of very thin layers, which are called the layers of blood capillaries, or layers of alveoli in lungs, okay, or villi and microvilli in the intestine, or many places. So here this thing is also true. Blood of mama and baby do not mix with each other. Okay, that is why it is possible that if mother is having any disease, some problematic thing in the blood, and if baby is not having the disease, for example, if we discuss HIV, if mama is having HIV and baby is not having HIV, we can save baby from the infection of HIV by taking care in the healthcare facilities in the hospitals. Okay, so it is possible theoretically. Okay, it is although it is difficult. So many things we have discussed in regarding this image. So let's move ahead. Okay, childbirth and pregnancy. Okay, before, okay, you see the images, then I will discuss some implication of hormones. You can see how movement of bones and organs will help in the childbirth, and this is what you call umbilical cord, which I was discussing about the navel. So we have navel spot because we are connected with the placenta with the help of this umbilical cord. Okay, now let us discuss some hormonal implication, and I will suggest you to take again a screenshot of this graph and this flowchart, and then refer to your text of hormones. So as we know that we human females have majorly two hormones, which are estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone is responsible for pregnancy. You can see here for 9 months increase in progesterone, increase in estrogen. Why? In my discussion of the female reproductive system, when we were discussing ovarian cycle, uterine cycle, or menstruation cycle, there we came to know that in every month, in half month, 14 days, that there is a rise in estrogen and progesterone, and in half month or 14 days there is a fall down of estrogen and progesterone. This is what we call menstruation cycle, but that is a normal situation. But if a lady is pregnant, the level of estrogen and progesterone is going to rise for the 9 months. Why? Because the corpus luteum, the structure, if you want to know more about corpus luteum and egg follicle, you can refer to my previous video. So the corpus luteum, which is nothing but egg follicle without egg, makes, because it proliferates. Let me show you that image again. So the corpus luteum inside the ovary, this yellow color thing, in normal situations, this is going to degrade over a period of time. But if pregnancy sustains, then it is not going to degrade, but it is going to proliferate, and it is going to make more estrogen, more progesterone. That is why we can see, we can understand this graph. Okay, one more thing. When embryo is implanted with the mother, there are some more hormones. You will see a list of hormones in your NCE textbook, which the extra hormones which we can find in the blood of a pregnant lady. But one important hormone I want to discuss here, which is HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Now you can remember the name chorionic villi, chorion. Chorion is the external embryonic layer of that embryo. Chorionic villi, the villi present in placenta, and here the hormone is HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. You can see the rise of HCG here and fall down of it. Okay, so you can see in for the first 3 months, you can see the rise in HCG. So it is a very good test for pregnancy also. If you are aware that there are some strips available for pregnancy, if we take urine of a female and we perform a test, if there is a line in that strip, the lady is pregnant. So how do we know? Very simple, because there is so high amount of HCG in the second or third month of pregnancy, and we know that HCG is never be there in the non-pregnant lady. So if you are talking about, okay, we can say that if estrogen is more, lady is pregnant. If progesterone is more, lady is pregnant. There is no way to measure this in normal situation. Why? Because estrogen and progesterone is already there in normal females, but of course their amount rises and falls according to the menstruation cycle or ovarian cycle or uterine cycle. But we can never see HCG in non-pregnant ladies. So it will be a very good test to perform for HCG, and because the amount is very high in the blood, it also filters in the urine also. So it is so that is why I am connecting the concept with the day-to-day life, so that you can remember. Okay, that is why this hormone was important. Now here, at the time of childbirth, you can see we need some modification in the body, even for the 9 months also. For these all 9 months, the body physiology, shape and size is different of a female, if you compare with the normal female. So of course we need some changes, some physiological changes, some other changes also. So hormones are responsible for all those changes in summary, but in detail you can refer to your NCERT text, because there is no end of the details. But if you stick it to your NCERT, then you will be able to complete your syllabus effectively, and you will be able to perform well in your board examination as well as NEET examination. So here I included this flow chart to understand the concepts better. So let's read them. Increased ratio of estrogen to progesterone at the end of third trimester. What do you mean by trimester? Trimester means collection of 3 months. So you can divide pregnancy into first trimester, second trimester, and third trimester. So you can say, okay, there are 3 trimesters in the pregnancy. So what is written in the third, at the end of third trimester? It means at the end of 9th month. Increase ratio of estrogen to progesterone. Here you can see there is more estrogen than progesterone. So this is how you can relate with graph with flowchart, and then with other diagram, and then with text also you can refer. Okay, so merely listening this video will not going to help you. You must be an active reader or active listener. So after seeing video, listening video, you can take some screenshots, you can take your textbook, you can take your notebook, and then you can you can stick to NCERT, and then you can refer other things to absorb the concepts better. Okay. Next thing, increase contractility of uterine muscle. Okay, if there is childbirth, that is why I have shown you these images. Okay, for childbirth, what do we need? Some flexibility in the bones and some contractions in the uterus, and these contractions are result because of one hormone which is called oxytocin in the mother pituitary plus as well as in the baby's pituitary. So when baby is fully developed, the head and brain is also fully developed, so it will release more oxytocin. If you remember, it is the product of posterior pituitary. Actually, hypothalamus is making some hormones, oxytocin and ADH, which is also vasopressin. We have discussed vasopressin in excretory systems. So oxytocin is also called the bonding hormone or cuddling hormone. So because of oxytocin, there is a strong connection between baby and mother. So this oxytocin is also responsible for facilitation of childbirth. Okay, so you can read the text and you can refer this flowchart and diagram also. That will help you to understand the concept better. So increased uterine contraction. Now you know why we need uterine contractions. Increased pressure on fetal head or cervix. Okay, you know what do you mean a cervix? The head of the uterus. Okay, uh, initial point of the uterus. Nervous system communicates uterine stretching to hypothalamus. Now you know what is the role of hypothalamus here. Hypothalamus will make oxytocin, and hypothalamus have many type of receptors, pressure receptors, thermoreceptors, osmoreceptors to know the physiological condition of the body. Hypothalamus is involved everywhere when it comes to regulation with hormones. Okay, so you will encounter this that is why I mentioned that if you want to understand the concepts discussed in this chapter better, you need to refer these chapters from class 11th NCERT. Okay, now coming back to that flow chart. Okay, so by referring this flow chart and by referring your answer text and by referring these diagrams also, these diagrams will also going to help you. You can understand the process of childbirth. Then comes lactation. So okay, because we humans are mammals, you know, if you have learned animal diversity in class 11th biology chapter number 4. So we humans are mammals. We have many features from mammals. We have hairs on our body, and we have mammary glands, so breast, to feed our children or child. So breasts are also considered with human female reproductive system. So because of this oxytocin and other hormonal regulation, when childbirth is there, automatically the mammary glands in the breast, they start to develop milk for the baby, and which the initial milk is called colostrum, which is very useful, which have full of antibodies which will provide immunity to the baby. In some cultures, some people consider that a type of bad milk. So females actually they extract that milk by hand from their breast and they throw it away. So it is a bad practice. Why? Because in doctors also say that okay, for the first few days we must only feed child only with the mother's milk, and they do not suggest water also, because that milk is full of nutrition and antibodies. Okay, so you will encounter small topics also in your NCERT when this chapter is going to end. For example, I was said that this heading will be there, parturition and lactation. So parturition means childbirth and lactation means the feeding. Okay, so in this video I covered most of the topics and I included diagrams and flowcharts for you that will help you to understand the topics better in your NCERT. So no one can replace the text in the NCERT, but yes, we can help you to understand the text better. So yes, always diagrams, tables, examples given in NCERT are very important for CBSE board examination plus NEET examination. Sometimes diagrams and tables will be taken as it is from NCERT. Sometimes you need to label, sometimes you need to, they ask you some questions, and sometimes they will ask simply to make that diagram. But other diagrams and flowcharts and graphs will definitely help you to understand the concepts better first thing, and sometimes some diagrams are not there in the NCERT because there is a limit for every textbook. So when you refer the text, these flowcharts and diagrams will help you. So with these points I conclude this chapter. Thank you so much you all for your patient listening. I will try to make my next video on chapter number 4 of this unit, which is human reproduction, and by this chapter I will end this unit. So I will try to make a complete video on this chapter because chapter is very small and it is actually a supplement of chapter number 3. So if you pay attention to unit number 1, which is reproduction, you will have chapter number 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 or 2 we must read together, and 3 and 4 together, so that we can complete our syllabus and we can answer the questions better. Thank you so much. We will meet in our next video.